Daddy, can you teach me how to make 3D?
All right, so for this video, I did something a little different when I was creating the Gerald project. I did some recording in real time and did some real-time voiceover, just walking through the process. So for the animation, there's a total of 6 scenes. There was a store, Gerald's room, the talent show, him skateboard down the street. Then there's also the baseball field. So this was for the baseball field. I don't have the footage of me actually modeling the initial layout of the baseball field that got lost in translation, but I pick up when I'm adding the fencing and then starting to add textures and then using iClone to implement the animations into the scene and then tying it all together, doing my lighting, making adjustments, and just bringing it all together for the final scene. So this one's in real time. It's a lot longer than normal. It's like over 2 hours long. So you can skip through or listen through, in double time and pick up some nuggets here and there. I hope you enjoy. And in the description, you'll find the link to my other walkthrough video that kind of breaks down the other scenes. Peace. All right. So I have my fence in here, these fence assets. So if I go to render view, you can kind of see I have a couple things. And this one right here in the middle actually looks like my reference over here. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to move all of these out the way. I'm going to take, and I'm working off a couple screens here. So I have like a drawing tablet that I use as a second monitor if I'm not like sculpting or something. And then I have like my main screen. So a lot of times I'll keep this main one like the view of my camera and then my render view. So just so you can kind of get an idea of my thinking behind a lot of these things. If I go to say the front stoop, you can see I didn't model like the entire building, right? This is what it looks like. But if you go to the camera view, you can see what's going on here. And if I go to my timeline, you see I animated the camera, and then I'm also using the Shakeify plugin just on low settings, so it kind of has a little bit of like handheld movement to it as well. So if I go back to the baseball field, and I'm building all of these out in one Blender session using scenes. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go Alt-P, and I'm going to clear the parent, but I'm going to keep the transform for this fence. And then I'm going to right-click, set origin to geometry, and I'll just go ahead also and apply all my transformations, and then go back and do geometry to origin. Would probably be better. So then I have my fence here. All right, so what I'm going to do, and I mentioned this earlier, for some reason, obviously I can look up here and see like Z, Y, and X axis and move things along on there. But when it comes to like rotating around the axis, for some reason, I always get it wrong. So what I did in the previous version before I lost all of the recording in the save file is I took this part of the fence and I made it about the size of this box here, or this placeholder plane that I have. And what I was thinking was that if kids were to create this baseball field, you might not necessarily like build fencing like these, might actually be sitting against the wall, right? So what I did was I brought it back to kind of like the corner a little bit. And let me take out this plane because I don't need that anymore, just so I can see. Bring it out just a little bit, and then I rotated it to where it was like leaning against the wall, about like that. And then I just make some adjustments and kind of put it there like that. Okay. And then the next thing I did was I took these out because I don't need those anymore either. They were just placeholders. I'm going to duplicate this. And then it was sideways and made it a little bit smaller. Also going to rotate that to where it leans a little bit. Kind of lean it back like this. A little bit over this way. And then I'm gonna make it a little smaller, rotate it at an angle, and then I'm gonna set it down here and bring it down to the ground. So I want it to almost look like it was just placed against the wall. And I can do a mirror modifier. And I'll just select like the ground plane so that it's even. And another thing I wanted to do was, like, they have some grass here, as you see. I need to also mirror modify this. And then there's like a bench right here, but I wanted to add a little bit more of my own thing. So I'll go back over here to my fence elements, and there's a fence and like a pole. So I'm going to do origin to geometry. I'm going to slide this over just a little bit, and I'm going to join those two. And then I'm going to put my origin to geometry, and I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to clear that parent, but keep the transformation. I'll bring it to the edge of my camera view. I'll rotate it this way and make it a little bigger and put it like down here. So I'm just kind of positioning it so that it looks like it's the edge of a dugout that they built. And some of this is my own touch. Obviously, it's not a direct one-to-one. And then I'm going to do a mirror modifier, and I mirror that also to the ground plane, so you have it over here as well. So then that's all my fence objects that are back in there. The next thing I did was I added a bench. So let me add another collection, and we're going to call it bench. And just very simple, because what's going to happen is it's going to be like out of focus, or like not a main part of the scene, but just something to add a little bit of another element to the scene. So let me do a cube. I'm gonna hit save a lot more often. I don't know why I didn't save it before. I'm gonna scale it on the X. Down on the Z, and kind of bring it up to about there. I'm gonna go to my shader editor, and I'm gonna call it bench. I'm also going to name this bench, and I'm going to select this bench that's in the scene to kind of get that similar brown. That's a little too red. Let me go something like that. All right. So then what I'll do is I'll duplicate this. And I'm going to bring it down on the Z, bring it over, to about here. Scale up just a little bit more. So that's a little too high. I want to bring it down. And then what I can do just to keep it even is I can add a mirror modifier, and I can click on the bench. It's going to add that. I'll apply this modifier, and then I'll select those legs and the bench. Just do a Control J to join, and then I'm going to bring it over to here. Bring it up just a little bit. So it's just subtle. If you're paying attention, you see it. And I want to kind of make sure that that light hits it a little bit. I'm not going to leave all of that. I'm going to use a different lighting setup that I figured out earlier, but you're still going to see just a faint bit of this HDRI that's in there. All right. So then, before I lost everything, I wanted to round out these pieces of grass a little bit. So I'm going to solo that out, and I'm going to add some loop cuts. So I'm going to go to the top. Let's do this one's out of camera view, so it doesn't really matter. This one maybe about here. This one here. And this one here. And then I'm going to go to my side view, and I'm going to add one at the bottom to keep it pretty straight, and then one with a little bit of space remaining at the top. So what I'll do is, while I'm here in edit mode, I'll just go ahead and smart UV unwrap, and then I'm going to add a subdivision surface. So you see now, kind of just smooth it out, almost looks like it's sort of a mound, and I can even play with this a little bit, kind of make it a little bit more like that, like tapered. And it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going for hand-drawn, organic, loose feel to everything. So then I'll come back out of here, and I'm going to do the same thing with the mound. You're not going to really be able to tell too much, but I'm going to hit tab, loop cut. I'm pressing Control R. Go to the right, and I'm going to add one at the bottom. And let's see what that looks like. Subdivision surface. Yeah, it kind of just smooths it out a little bit. So that'll work. So then I'll show you a setup that I've been using for all of the textures. So if I go to we can just go to the Gerald base, because I have a base set up with just the character. It has his hair in here as well that I can parent to the mesh if I'm showing his head. But if you look close, you're going to see like some halftone textures in there. So basically the setup for this is there's Riley B3D created this node setup for like a painterly look that has some stuff working behind the hood, but then you can add your own textures in here, like paint brushes or whatever. But I chose to do brush strokes, but I chose to do halftone textures. So I have two halftone textures coming into a mix node that's going into the brush texture socket right here. And then I have my base color that controls that. So if I was to take off this base color, you see I could change the color to whatever I wanted, but it still has those textures in there, right? And it's kind of just, you can see where it repeats, which is fine. I want it to be like that. I don't want it to be like all uniform and things like that. So if I drag in my base color, you see then I have stuff that came from Substance Painter, strokes and brush marks and some gradients and all these different things that I painted onto here. And you can see it in the shirt as well. So what I want to do is go to my baseball field and say, for instance, the ground here. I want to use the texture for the ground. Let me see. Just the base color, but I don't need like the normal map or the metallic map or roughness or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select his sweater, his hoodie, and then I'm going to select all of the nodes for the node setup. I'm going to go back to the ground. Oops. I didn't get it. Hold on. I'm going to paste it. So one thing I'm doing is I use for these quick textures right here, I basically used the Substance Painter plugin, and then you can download the Substance Painter files and use them in Blender here, right? So you can change different parameters and stuff if you were just applying something for like a background texture and didn't need too many details. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth this all over. I'll bring this up here, bring this over here, and I'm going to come down here to my base color, and I'm going to duplicate that base color. I'll remove it from the frame, and then I'm just going to bring that up here to the top. So I'm going to remove this base color that I copied from the hoodie, and I'm going to drag this base color into here. I'm going to take this material output, and I'm going to drag it from this brushstroke shader setup that I'm using into the surface. Okay, so now what you see is you see those halftone textures that are hitting in there, and the texture is like really, really large on here. So there's a few things I want to do. The first thing I'm going to do is probably make these just a little bit smaller. So maybe try like 10. And then I'm going to come here. I'm going to press Control T to add my mapping nodes. And I'm going to go maybe like 15. So now you can see there's some like variation in there. I might even go a little bit. Let me see, 20. Yeah, let's leave it a little better. There's like some variation in there. And then in my soil here, this is like my mound that I created. And you can see too, the way that the node setup is up, you're almost getting, this is cycles, but you're almost getting some of the like toon shading look with this setup. So let me go here and do a UV smart project and see, and then it adds that to the mound as well. All right, so now we have the mound, some cool shadows that's going on. You see right here along the edge of the mound. So the next thing I'll do is I'll do it for the grass. So I'm going to select all of this again, really just all of this down here. I'm going to click on my grass. And I'm going to paste that in. So I'll do the same process. I'll come down to my base color. I'll remove it from the frame. And bring it up to the top here. And this base color can be anything, right? You can use the one of those painting apps that work directly in Blender. You can use Instamat. You can use Substance Painter. You can really use whatever you want to use. I'm going to drag this into the base color. I'm going to come down, pull up my material output, and then drag that shader into the surface. And then finally, what I'll do is I'll add a mapping node with Control T. Just kind of pull that over and maybe do like 10. Let's try 5. There we go. And you can see, of course, you can see that this is just like a pattern that's repeating, but it's not going to be in focus. It's not the main focus of the scene, and I won't be showing it close up, so it will get the job done for what I need it to do. And I'll just UV unwrap those so the edges don't look wonky, right? So I have, again, 2 cameras. I have my close-up one, and I have this wider angle. And my thoughts is probably going to be, you might not see the picture. Like I might move the mound back a little bit and you just see just the edge, but you see a ball maybe coming through, and it'll follow the ball. Arnold's probably going to be the catcher. Then Gerald will hit the ball and kind of like walk off like he hit a home run. It's only going to be like a 10-second sequence. It's not going to be super long. So the next thing I did was created the did the lighting. So luckily I remember what I did, so I'll just kind of do that quickly. And you can miss all the experimentation parts that I did earlier. So I'll just name it baseball field lighting. All right, so I did like this HDRI, so I'm going to keep that. And I'm going to probably, I may redo this brick, but the things that I'll texture in Substance Painter will be like the home plate, these fences, and the bench. And then that'll be pretty much it. And everything else should pretty much mesh well together with the shaders that I have on there. And you know what? Let me just see what it looks like if I went ahead and did it with the bricks real quick. So again, I'm going to select this whole setup here. I'm going to go to my bricks. Coming down to my base color. Remove from frame. And bring this up. Gonna go color into base color. Bring this up to here and then into my shader. So you see it has my mapping also. And then maybe I'll try like a 2. I want to actually try to see some of those from far away. So even larger ones like that. And then add my mapping nodes. All right. So I'm gonna go to my lighting. And first thing I'm actually gonna do is take this HDRI way down to like 0.05 or 0.1. So I still want some of the shadows to come through and some of the lighting to come through. So my thinking was, let me pull up. You have a light here that obviously isn't going to show enough light over here on the baseball field. But I was thinking like maybe there's lights that are shining down like floodlights. So what I want to do is add a area light, and then we can boost this up like a lot, like maybe start like 5,000. And then what I did was I brought it over here and then brought it up, and it gave me some really cool shadows. Something like that. And then I can make this a little smaller. All right, so then I'll go back to my wider view, and I'll add some lighting like coming from this side and from this side. So I'm just gonna duplicate, kind of bring it over here, maybe about like right here, but I'm gonna take it down a lot. So maybe like 500, maybe 1,000. And then kind of do the same on this side. And then I'm gonna also want to throw some color in there. Most of the stuff I've been doing has been leaning blue. So let me rotate this, bring it down. Then I'm gonna dig into like a blue color, then crank that up. Can go something like that. And then experiment. So now that I'm seeing it, I'm gonna take this light out, and I'm gonna take this light out and have the blue. Also too, I guess if you were playing in a yard or in the an abandoned lot or something. It might be just like one main light and then a lot of lights coming from the street. So we'll have like that floodlight. I'll take this other light over here and duplicate it and rotate it, but I might add it like introduce some orange just to see what it looks like. I don't need that much though. So let me take it down to like 1,000 maybe. Yeah, something like that. Then what I can probably do, and what I do is I'll just experiment with a couple different cameras and seeing what it looks like as I go through, and then I can always kind of come back and create my final cameras, add any animations or anything like that. So he'll be closer up on the plate. Grab that camera. And like that. So I'm gonna go back to my wide view just so I can see what's going on. I probably need to bring this up some out. Actually, let me bring it out. Rotate. Yeah, maybe something along those lines. And then I'm actually liking the brick is not that bad to me. But I might add some like decals and stuff in Substance Painter. So I have like a bench. Maybe I'll turn this up even more. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to even use that wider angle. It's really more just so I can get like a reference. All right, so I have Arnold in the scene, and he's going to be the catcher, so I may model like a catcher mask or something, so I don't really have to worry about drawing the mouth stuff on. If I do, I might just either do a different base layer in Substance Painter or I'll use grease pencil. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to iClone and I'm going to apply like a quick motion from Mixamo onto him and then bring it into here just so I can kind of see how he's going to interact with the scene. So I have iClone open here and I have my eye avatar of Arnold in here. So I'm just going to set that. I'm going to reset this to 0 to where he's at. And I'm going to bring in... What? There we go. The baseball catcher motion from Mixamo. So I'm going to drag that in. And then I'm just going to click Convert All, Proceed. So obviously this doesn't look right. And I only really want when he's down. So it's only about this much. So let me start here by, breaking that. You can just do it normal. I'm gonna delete that. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here to the beginning of the timeline. I'm going to edit the motion layer. So anything I add on here in this first one will basically like stay with the sequence for the rest of the time. So let me try first raising his hips up a little bit. And what another thing I need to do is do my foot contact. So then I go back over here. And maybe bring his butt back just a little bit. And this is like bare minimum geometry. So once I add it into Blender and it has a subdivision surface on there, it's gonna look a little smoother. And then I may need to like do a little bit of sculpting or even potentially use shape keys just to make sure that everything's right, especially like around his sweater here. So that would obviously like sit back behind his legs. And then I'll take this arm here, bring it down, and probably want to rotate that up a little bit. So even with this in my thinking about it, it doesn't have to be perfect because for one, he's not the focus of the shot. So if you go to the shot here, you're going to see he's already a little bit out of focus here, and I could even play with that depth of field a little more, but I think that's enough for what he has because we have Gerald is the main character, and then so Arnold's not the main character in this situation. So I just need a good motion that conveys that he's the catcher. So what I'll do next is set the speed and maybe do it like 50%. Oops. Apply that. And then I can just kind of come here and duplicate it to about 240. 240 at 24 frames a second, 10 seconds. I don't think I'm going to do this any more than 10 seconds. Each frame that I've been rendering out at about 150 to 200 samples has been about 15 to 20 seconds depending on the scene. So I want to keep it kind of light and kind of quick. So press play. You can see there's some movement that shows. Oop, I don't like the end of that. So maybe right here we cut. See, what I need to probably do is copy this and blend them in. There we go. So like for manipulating quick animations from Mixamo, like I really love iClone for that. You can kind of change things around. So you see he has some movement there, like he's waiting on a pitch or something. It's a little repetitive, obviously. It's only like 30 frames, 35 frames, but it will get the job done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export that as an FBX. We'll just go to like 240 frames. And then call it Arnold Baseball, right? So I'll create another folder. I'll call it Motion. And I'm going to import that FBX. So it's like Gerald, Motion, Arnold Baseball. So it's putting it up here. So what I have to do is I'm going to select the mesh for the Arnold that I'm going to use. That's already in the scene. And then I'm going to shift click and select the animated mesh or the animated armature. And I'm going to press Control L and I'm going to link animation data. It didn't do it. Hold on. Do I have... Or is it the other way? Oh, you know what? So what I did was... Still have my Rigify rig on there. So let me do this. All right, so I have my Rigify. There's like a, when you bring in a character after you Rigify, to use AccuRig a lot. If you convert it to a Rigify rig, then you can't just apply those animations to it. You should really keep the rig that it built out in Rigify. So what I can do, in AccuRig. So what I can do would be, I'm gonna go to my front stoop and maybe I can go to this Arnold base rig and I can copy, see if I can paste it in here. Okay, so I had this Arnold base rig, and in this rig, it has some animation data in it, or it did. I guess it doesn't here. Yeah, there it is. So what I want to do is I want to take, and as I do this, I kind of get a little bit more efficient, but I still do some things that like give me headaches every time. So I'm gonna select this rig, and then I'm gonna select the animated rig with the baseball animation, and it should link. There we go. It just linked it up. All right, so now if I scroll through my timeline, so what I can do is I can come to my motion one and delete that motion. I can take this, or hide that motion one, excuse me. I can take this armature, select it, and then just drag it back behind home plate. So now, if I move it through there, and then Arnold does have hair, by the way. And mentioned this before, like I have the hair assets in here that I built a hair system, but I don't mess with it until it's time to like render out the final product. Otherwise, it's just going to slow down the process. So my hat is a little. All right, so you see Arnold there with the hair. Bring that hair down just a little bit. And what I can do is I can rig or attach that hair to a bone. So I'll just kind of show how that process goes. I'll grab the hair, and then I'll grab the armature. I'll go into pose mode. And usually what I'll do is I'll just select like the closest bone to it. So if this was a Rigify rig, it'd have like a circle around the head, and I would just parent it to that one. But since it's not, I usually select the two eyes, and then I'll put Control P, and I'll do bone relative or bone. Either one usually works. And then now you see when he moves, the hair moves. So what I'll do is I'll hide that hair for now, just to keep things light. And one final thing I'll do on this recording before I call it a day is I'll add another lighting folder. And I'm going to use some light linking to add more light to the characters. So the first thing I'll do is maybe some lighting from the back of Gerald. So I'm going to add a light, an area light. I'm going to bring it over here to Gerald. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. Now let me just turn it up to like 500. And if you go to here, in the object tab and light linking, I can select, so this version of Gerald that I'm using is Gerald 006. So I'm gonna come here, Gerald 006. And now you see that light is just hitting on this Gerald collection. Rotate, maybe bring it up a little bit. Kind of do something like that. So then what I can do is I can duplicate this light because we probably want that light coming from the same direction. Take that one off. And I kind of like the way that looks. So let me see something before I put it just on Arnold. Let me try. So this one is Arnold base rig 001. And that light's hitting just Arnold and not that background. And then I can duplicate this one. And since I had this light over here that was blue, I'm going to make this one more like a blue. And it's probably the same with Gerald. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to change the collection to the Gerald 6 and then bring it closer to him so that he kind of has some light hitting him there. And then for this final one, I think I might duplicate but then take it off so I have some more light hitting there. And I'll bring it down to like maybe 250. See what it looks like if I take off. So that's a little bit more what I'm going for. And then if I go to here and over, something like that. And then I could probably do one more. It's this one. It's this one here. I really should label these, but it's just me, so it's all good. Right side. I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to bring it down behind Arnold. And let me bring his hair in just so I can see. Yeah. And then I can bring this over just a little bit. And maybe back. All right, so you can see I'll have Arnold slightly out of focus, has a bunch of shadows and stuff on his face. I'll add a mask over his face, so I need to model that. And then there's a baseball animation, like a at-bat animation for Gerald as well. So ideally what will happen is I'll take this camera here, and it might start like here. See, now I can't see the mound, so what I may need to do is still add a little bit of that. Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe a little more. And the baseball will follow in, and it will kind of come into here. And then Gerald will swing on the baseball. So we'll keep it like that. This is the wider view. Don't know if I'll use that one or not. So maybe some of this stuff is done for nothing, but it's all good. Something like that. And then I'll just hit render and just kind of see what it looks like real quick. This one has his hair in there, so it's taking a little longer. Still was able to get it to render fairly fast for having that hair in there. I mean, 30 seconds is a while, but 240 frames, 30 seconds. It's like 2 hours, which is not bad. All right, and then you can see once you get that the denoise on there, it does kind of smooth it out a little bit, which is fine because I am going for kind of like that painterly look. And you see that you get a pretty cool looking image. It's a little bit unbalanced as far as the composition, so yeah, I would maybe go something more like that. And have Arnold and Gerald off center, or Arnold and home plate off center just a little bit. And what I want to do now is add Gerald's animation and then maybe fix up Arnold's animation, add the ball in, and then I'm going to start doing some texturing and camera animation, and I should be done. So my thinking for this next step was to actually have them play wiffle ball. So like back in the day in the 90s, me and my friends, we used to play wiffle ball a lot. So you didn't necessarily need like gloves and stuff. You just can catch the ball with your hand. So instead of worrying about putting a glove and a mask on Arnold, I can just basically have him as is, and then I can fix up anything that needs to be fixed up. And for his mouth, what I'll probably do is just use grease pencil and just draw his mouth on there so you see it. He's still going to be out of focus, but at least you'll see it like in the scene. So I'm going to do a couple things to Arnold real quick just to kind of fix this up. So let me open up a timeline window, go to the beginning of the animation. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into pose mode, and this is the animation from iClone, and I'm going to select this bone, and I'm going to just delete all of those keyframes. So now I can kind of rearrange it or position it how I want it. And then that should stay there the whole time. Right. His movement's very subtle, so it's not like it's a huge. So just so it's not a weird looking deformation. Like when I come from iClone, sometimes it will put it in a slightly weird position, or not as clean looking as I want it to be. So I can just kind of adjust some of these bones. And since he's just kind of having real subtle animations, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just something that looks good. let's clear those transformations on that. So his hand looks better there. And then on his thumb here, on the other hand, that looks fine. And then if I click on his shirt here, you see it's clipping with his pants. So what I'm going to do is just use my grab brush. And just pull it back so that it's not clipping. Again, you're not going to see this in a lot of detail. So as long as it looks good from a distance and blurred out, that's fine. And I can maybe even go to my front view and just bring this down a little bit so it sits more like right there on his pants. And then I can probably select my pants and bring this down a little bit in the middle there, his jeans. And I might so cool. So I think that looks pretty good. So, all right, so what I'm gonna do for this scene here with Arnold in the background, I was gonna do grease pencil, but I didn't like the way it looks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a second base color image that has like his mouth drawn in, and I might draw like some outlines, some of the black line work around his ears and nose and eyes. And again, he's going to be out of focus here, like in the background, but I still want you to be able to tell that is Arnold and have those elements in there. So I'm in Substance Painter, and I'm going to go to his layer. So this is the file of how I texture them. If I go to like base color, you can kind of see what his base color looks like. So I was working off of base color when I built it, so I can kind of color in my own shadows and whatnot. But what I'm gonna do is I'm on his head layer, and see I already had like one layer, but I don't really like those layers too much. So I'm gonna create another layer. I'm gonna go to my brushes, and I'm probably gonna do like a basic hard. Let me turn this off because it's gonna slow me down. Turn off all of my layers except for base color, and then I'm going to go with black. I'm gonna go about here, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on this lazy mouse. And you can do this with your mouse, or you could actually do it with your or drawing tablet. If you don't have it, you can do it with your mouse. So what I'm gonna do is kind of go close up and looking at the reference image, it kind of goes around the bottom of his eyes and then across his eyelid. So let me do a stroke and just see. Get that a little cleaner. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna go to my pen tool, and I'm just gonna draw it in. So I need to select my basic hard, and then I need to turn off all of my layers except for base color. I'm gonna go black, and then I'm gonna take the size down. So I'm gonna do a test stroke. Too big, a little too small. All right, so what I'll do is I'll just click here. Right, and then if I click back on here, I can like delete some of these points and move them around so that they fit and curve how I want them to curve. If I need to add one, I can add one. Oops. And one thing to keep in mind is that this is not going to be, again, like the main focus. So as long as it kind of translates how I want it to translate, it should be good to go. And then there's one I can make a little bit bigger, and I can go like around the bottom of his eye. I'm just clicking on the blue line and then adjusting. And the cool thing about using like this pen tool is I can adjust the lines width after, and I could even like click on one of the points and take that pressure down, and it will kind of taper it like that. Come to this side, kind of taper that one. So now, let's see what it looks like. It has that line, but the thing is too, I forgot to do. So I'll go back to here, click on this line. The line actually went more like this, went above. And I can go to this side and do the same thing. If I need to add another point, I can do that. Like that. So then I can go to this side, do the same thing. Adjust my points. Take my thickness down a little bit. Hit enter, and then I can add another one that goes around the eye. It's real loose at first, and then I can come in and move those points. Adjust my size. If I click on this one, I can take the pressure down and taper that one. Bring this one up. Take the pressure down and taper that one. I want to make this one a little thicker and bring it down. Same thing, just make this one a touch thicker. All right, so now that I have that, I can go back to my brush tool. Same layer is fine, and I can draw a couple of draw the mouth. And then I can come and maybe draw so what I'll do now is take this lazy mouse off. And I'll do the same on this side. All right. So I have that. So what I'm going to do then is I'll test it to see what it looks like. So I'll save that. And I just want his head. So let me rename this one. It's head alternative, just so that I don't overwrite my original. even though I have it in layers, I can always just re-export it. I'll go back to here. I'm going to click on Arnold. I'm going to go to my shader tab. My base color here. So head, alt, base color. And then if I go into render view, it should show up. There we go. So everything looks good except I don't really like the way this looks right here. I think the lines on his ears are a little bit too thick as well. So let me go back to Substance Painter. I'm going to go here. And I'm going to take down that size just a little bit. Take down that size on here a little bit as well. And on here. And then what I'll do is, I think the mouth was fine. I just didn't like the ears. I'll take my erase brush, erase those ears, go back to my paintbrush. Maybe bring the line down a little bit, the size. Maybe something like that. Export those textures again. Yeah, that's better. So now you can see that is Arnold. It has those lines. I could probably, let me try this as well. Then what I'll do is select this, take this pressure down. Just let, so you see a little bit of the line with his nose as well. So if I go to the wider angle, looks pretty cool. And then when you have his hair in there, that's what he's looking like. So I think that works pretty well for this part. All right, so now I'm going to work on the Gerald animation with the baseball bat. So I've found a baseball bat that is from, I want to say maybe Sketchfab, something like that. And I'm going to bring it right up to Gerald and kind of make it bigger for scale. So let's say about to here. And then what I'll do is I'm going to retexture it in Substance Painter. So I'll just really just need like the scale of the object. So let me just apply all my transformations. And then what I'm going to do is I'll export that as an FBX. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into iClone, set up my animation with it. I should be able to like parent it to a bone, and then it will react with the animation. Bring that animation into Blender, and then I'll use the same FBX and throw it into Substance Painter and texture the bat. So I'll have my Gerald here. I'm going to save this so I don't save over my other animation. And then I'm going to import, go to Gerald, visual field assets, the baseball bat, and I want to bring it to 0. It should be, where is it? Let's bring it up to here right in front of them. So I'm gonna drag my animation in from Mixamo. It's a baseball animation. And I'm gonna first just kind of see where we're at with everything. So make sure I'm on 24 frames a second. It's short, it's a short. Oh, there we go. All right, so about 35 frames. So what I'll do is I'm gonna first kind of clean this up a little bit. So I'm gonna edit my motion layer. I'm just gonna bring those hands out a little bit. Back and in. Then this one's going to be a little bit further down, like that. Don't worry about like his eyes where they're looking. That's just an old. It's representing an old texture from when I rigged the character, but that's not actually going to be what I'm using. So then I'm going to select this baseball bat. I haven't done this in a while, so let me see if I can remember how to do it. If not, I'll just pause and look up how to do it real quick. Kind of like the first thing I'm doing is just positioning. And now that I look at it, I can probably just make it bigger in Blender, but let's just kind of have it there and then attach. If we pick a parent, there we go. So then ideally, and honestly, I can just attach this to the bone in the exact same way within Blender. But let me see how this looks on a loop first. All right, so I'm thinking it's working 200 with 240 frames. It's going to be 10 seconds to 24 frames a second. So maybe he's idle for about 4 seconds. So what's that, 96 frames? So what's the closest to 96 when this loops? So yeah, so that's, the loop starts over at 108. So what I'm going to do then is put in my animation for when he hits the ball. So I'm just going to drag that in, convert all, and then see how he moves. So he goes like this, and then he swings. So the bat's a little wonky, but everything else is there. So what I can do is maybe blend those together. So let's see, if I'm doing about 10 seconds tops, but I'm going to edit it down, so it really might only be about 5 or 6 seconds. And then if I have 2 camera angles, some of that can be duplicated up. So like these first 4 seconds would have a, let's look at it in Blender. If I used this camera angle and had 2 or 3 seconds of them, and then this camera angle, and then I would also maybe have one of these animated in to where it's following the wiffle ball in, and then you see him swing. So you might not necessarily see that hand animation messing up with the bat. So this should be good at 180 frames. So he's idle, then he swings. It starts to run. Okay, one thing I need to do, make sure of, which it should already be on, is that foot contact is on. So we've got foot contact on. So I'm gonna select, let me just, yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll take out the bat, save, then I'm gonna export this motion to 180 frames. So then, same concept to get the motion in. So I have a motion folder. So I'm just gonna hide, or not hide, but just select to where I can't select any of those. Bring back my motion folder. I'll delete that Arnold motion. And then I'm gonna import the Gerald baseball motion. So the next thing you do is I'm gonna select the armature for the animation. And then I'm gonna select the one I want it to go to, which I can't right now. Now I'll do it, shift select, and turn back on my screencast keys. So I'm select the animation armature, shift select the one I want it to go to, press Control L, and then I'm gonna link the animation data. So boom, there he is. So then I can just hide this. So he is rotated. So let me take this. I'm gonna rotate him to here. And move him back a little bit. So if I bring up my timeline, you're gonna see Gerald's moving, Arnold's moving. He's gonna swing and then start to run. So the only thing that I'm not a huge fan of is when he steps on the home plate. So maybe I can baseball field. And just move that back a little bit so when he steps, he doesn't step directly on it. Cool. So he's standing like a little bit in front. And then the next thing to do would be to take this baseball bat. I'm going to drag this Gerald bat collection into the overall Gerald collection so that the light affects it. And then I'm going to take the bat, I'll scale it up a little more. And what I'll do is position it to where and again, this doesn't have to be perfect because if I'm looking at the camera view and I turn on the render view, you're not going to really see the detail, and it might not even show as much as you think it would as far as his fingers and whatnot. So that's what that's going to look like. And I'll probably do the same thing with this Gerald now that I'm looking at him. Just go ahead and draw in his mouth and some stuff around his eyes so you at least get those that look, that hand-drawn look of like the original. So, but let me focus on one thing at a time. So back to the bat. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just close. So I'm going to select, I have the bat selected. I'm going to select the armature. I usually just click on that root bone. And then I'm going to go into pose mode. And then in pose mode, I'm going to see which one I want to do. Let's try this bone, this hand bone. And maybe this finger bone too. Like all of these finger bones. Oops. So Control P. And I'm going to do bone relative. And then let's see if it moves with it. There you go. So now if you look at the bat when he's idle, it's moving. And we'll see if it works when he swings. So he's swinging, he's coming back. So that's where it gets crazy right there. That ain't gonna work. But because what it would need to really be would be on his other hand, because he would let go. So let me try pairing it. So it shouldn't be moving now. Okay. So instead of that right hand, let's parent it to this left hand. So maybe like this thumb bone and then these finger bones. Control P and relative. So still moving, looks a little better actually. Then he swings. Yeah, a lot better. And then what I could even potentially do oh no, that looks real good. Is just kind of add some animation to that as he swings through so that it's closer to his hand. So he swings. So let me get out of pose or object mode, go back to object mode. Let me click on the bat. So here, he's holding onto the bat. Then he swings. And it's probably gonna happen fast. I mean, again, I'm not like looking for perfection. I'm just, and I can work around it with the camera as well. It's kind of things I learned like from, if you like look at those videos or those screen captures of like animators, how they, from like Pixar movies, how they might move stuff around and fake it or stretch different parts as long as it works within the camera view. So that's really what I'm just focusing on now. So he swings. So when he comes back around, say he's still holding it. And then, I mean, obviously he would drop the bat if this was something real, but I'm only using, the idea that I have is he'll hit the ball and then it will cut to another scene. Like he'll hit the ball, start running, and then it will cut to another scene. So we won't even see the animation of him dropping the bat. So it's only showing at 8 frames a second, but we'll see what it looks like. All right, cool. So I want to say, okay, so now, like I said earlier, let's pretend that they're playing wiffle ball. So, like I said, I used to play wiffle ball when I was a kid. My friends, or we'd play baseball even with like tennis balls, things that wouldn't break windows. So I have this wiffle ball here that I also found like on Sketchfab. Let me turn this auto keyframing off because I don't have it there yet. So go to the beginning, bring it down. So I'm gonna take this camera. Let me turn off this baseball field, bring on these cameras. I'm gonna duplicate this camera. Oops. And I'll call it ball cam. So then I'm going to take the ball. Let's see, ball cam. I'm in the ball. Maybe put it right here. Let me turn off Arnold's hair. Okay, and then I'm going to see, ideally I can take this ball, click the camera, Control P, and then pair it and keep transform. So if I move my camera, the ball should move as well. Yeah, like that. Okay, so when he hits the ball, let's say 120 frames when he hits the ball. And for my depth of field, I want it to be the wiffle ball. And then we can actually do something like that. So 120 frames. It's when he hits the ball. So if we go to the beginning to 100 frames, we don't need to come back. Oh, change my depth of field. So Y, let's bring back the Y. So what's going to happen is he's going to hit the ball's coming in, it's following. You see him moving. And then boom. So I can probably even turn this down a little more. I want to be out of focus, but not completely. And then another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a light, an area light. And I'm going to bring it over the ball. Maybe about like here. And I can take that light, shift click the camera, Control P, and then parent, but keep transform. So the camera should follow, or the light should follow the camera, which it's doing. And then what I'm going to do is go back to the beginning again, and I will take this camera and duplicate it, rotate it around this way, and I might make it like a blue. So make it smaller, bring it down, maybe bring it over a little bit, and then just turn that down a lot. And rotate it a little bit. So that one should also follow. Yep. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll click on here on the ball. I need rotation. So let me put this in the middle. It should be in the middle. It's not though. So what I can do is the origin point is not hitting right in the middle. So let me try this first. Let me do set origin to geometry. Objects. Apply all location between scale and then. So yeah, that origin is not really sitting in the middle. So what I can do then would be I can add a empty sphere. And then I'll just position this empty right over the ball. I'll take the ball, shift click the empty, and then I'll parent it. So then I can take this empty and I should be able to, rotate it. There we go. So say it's rotating in that direction and maybe like a little bit like this. So I'm gonna go here to the beginning. Might start like here, and then if we go to like 120. Uh-oh. One thing I forgot to do. Let me go back to the beginning. I'm gonna take this empty and I'm gonna parent that to the camera. Okay, so then I go back to the beginning. I should have something like that. And then if I go to 120, say it was rotating this way and like this way. So let me take all of this off for a second. I'll keep this here, and then I'm gonna go here and I'll just rotate it in this direction. Maybe about 9 times. And then if I look at my other camera, which is gonna be this one, close up. So we got the ball coming. Should come in the frame, and then so 121, it actually goes there. So if I go to ball cam, so let me bring it over here and back. So one thing I'm gonna have to also do, let me do this first. Say it hits the ball here. Take off the one before then. Now I'm gonna hide this screen for a second because when I was showing light linking before, I didn't realize I had it covered up. So if I turn this off and I come down here to my wiffle ball collection, and then I click on, so let me do this. I'm going to move the lights to a different collection, wiffle ball lights. And then if I go to my object tab, and down here under shading, and I do light linking, I can select wiffle balls. And it's going to put those, that light is only going to affect the wiffle ball and not the bat when it gets close. You see the reflection of like the light hitting the bat, but you won't see that light directly on the wiffle ball. So then if I kind of preview it all, it's coming in. Uh-oh. Something's off though. Oh, I put wiffle ball lights and not the wiffle ball for this one. So it has to actually be the wiffle ball. And then I can take this down to like, Yeah, something like that. It's coming in, it's rotating, rotating. And then he... So what I'll probably do then is I'll cut, right? It's coming in, and then I'll switch cameras to where it will like hit that one, and then he swings. He swings. And then the ball will take off. So that's the best way to do that would probably be to animate my ball cam, because the ball cam's connect. Well, I could probably just do it ball empty. So let me come down here. Right. So then say I go like here, and it's gonna take off, and it just has to go out of frame. So the ball comes in, and then you see the swing. Then he starts to walk off, and see, you don't really see, the hands look fine there, and then it's going to end like 180. So basically I'll call this one a swing cam, and then the ball cam. So for the ball cam, the ball's coming in, you see that, right? And then when it gets close, I'll use some frames, maybe about 84, comes in, he swings, hits the ball, and then the 80. So 80, probably like 80 to 80, and then ball cam 0 to like 120. And you don't see Gerald's, well, do you see Gerald's face? Let me go back to the ball cam. So just kind of for consistency, I will add some lines like for his mouth and ears, or not ears, but eyelids. You won't really see it too much. And then what I need to do is texture. I want to texture these fences, the ball, and the baseball bat. One last thing I'm going to do for the ball cam is I'm going to use camera Shakeify and just take this down. Probably try the investigation one. Just to add a little movement. And then also for the swing cam, probably do the same. Maybe I'll do the close up. Okay. Oh, and then the home plate. I want to also do the home plate. So let me go ahead and get those assets together. So for the baseball field, make sure I don't have any. I'll apply that. Go to my shader editor. So that's home plate. We have baseball bat material. Let's rename it to baseball bat. One thing I need to kind of learn more about is UDIMs and all that kind of stuff. But normally the way I do my texturing, because it's just me, it's not like I'm working in a professional like workflow where I'm doing just one aspect of something and passing it off. But I'll just label everything in the material slots of what it is, and then when I take it into Premiere or Substance Painter, everything there is good to go, and it'll be separated by names of the same material. So when I export it back out into Blender, those files are named as those material slots. So I usually just kind of go through and give everything a material beforehand. So I got the wiffle ball, and I'm just gonna make sure that I UV unwrap that. I can just do a smart UV unwrap for the baseball bat. I'm also gonna do a smart UV project. The fence material, they have the same. Ooh, actually, no, I might not be able to. Oh, it's gonna have a base color there. And what they're doing is they have an alpha clip. So if I were to take the alpha clip, it's probably just gonna be like a rectangle. Yep. So I need to leave that there. Yeah, that one doesn't have an alpha clip on it. So what I can do is just I don't think I'm going to mess with the fences then. It's not worth the squeeze. It's not worth the juice. So I have my home plate material. I have my wiffle ball material. I have my baseball bat material. And I'm going to add some line work to Gerald's face. So if I go back to my timeline and go to the beginning, is there anything else? Swing cam and ball cam. I think that's really about it. And I'm not going to mess with the bricks either. I think the bricks look good for what they are. So what I'll do is I'll select the wiffle ball. And I'm just going to export everything. I'm going to name it Alt. And then I can just go back and forth. I can just take that Alt off if I wanted to make any other adjustments to Gerald in the future and re-export that texture. So I'm going to go and click on the pen tool. I'm gonna add a new paint layer. I'm gonna take off everything except for my base color, and I'm gonna go black. I'm gonna take this size down. So let me just see what it looks like. All right, so kind of the same thing. He has strokes around his eyes. And you know what? I can probably turn on symmetry for this. Okay, so then I'll select this. Let's kind of delete some points and make it fit around the edge. take the size down. He also had something around the nose, which I don't know if it's going to translate that well. And actually, let me make sure this side is right, because this is the side that's going to be shown to the camera. And that's all I really need there. And then I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to turn off everything except base color. I'm going to go to black. I'm going to take it down. So then for his mouth, since this is the side that's going to be on the camera, I'll do the kind of the same thing I did with Arnold. Like a and then for just a little bit of detail, right, because he's going to kind of be looking about like that. Oops. Let me actually erase these and just draw one that's a little better. So what I can do is file, export texture, and I can actually just undo everything except for the head, Alt. And let me just select my cycles base color only, because I don't need everything else. I don't need all the other maps. I'm not even using them. I'm going to export. So now if I go to Blender and I click on this head, and I come down here to his base color, select the alternative base color, go to ball cam, I should have those lines on his face, but they're very subtle, but whatever, we'll keep them. Can't tell. So when you get closer, you might be able to. No. All right, so whatever. All right, so now I'm going to texture some of the assets in the baseball scene. And if you look through some of the things I've done, I'm just creating textures and objects that try to relay like the information of the scene without going too crazy. So I'm not actually spending a lot of time texturing each one of these assets. I kind of created like this little quick process that's kind of like freehand and fun and scribbly to get the point across. And then when I add in this kind of comic book toon shader, it makes it look a lot more complex than what it actually is. So if I go back to my baseball field, what I'm going to do is I'm going to texture this ball, home plate, and Gerald's bat. The rest of it is pretty much good to go. I have like my grass, my ground. I'm not going to mess with the fence because it has like some alpha channels in there. And then I have the brick walls that also have like that comic book halftone texture in it. So for the first one, in Substance Painter, what I'll do is I'll add just like a whole paint layer, a fill layer, and I'll maybe do it about there with the gray / white. And right now I have my material on. I'll eventually switch over to base color only, but I just kind of want to see the shape on how the light's interacting. So then for this paint layer, I'm gonna take off everything except for my base color, and I might go to like a deeper gray. And I've been using this knife painting brush a lot. I just think it works pretty well. So what I'll do is I'm gonna go through real loosely and just kind of paint across like the bottom right here. Kind of go up higher on some levels, some sections, and lower on others. And it's not like perfectly UV unwrapped either, which is fine. I'm just trying to get some basic colors on there. So then I'll get this side a little more. And then maybe have some kind of like bleed over the top a little bit. Just some randomness. Now, like for the actual characters themselves, I spent a lot more time like kind of with this process. But for like a lot of the elements that aren't going to be super like seen that much, I just kind of do something quick, and I might take the opacity down, add another layer, and then what I'll do is maybe go even like a deeper gray. Oops. And I'll add, I might put on this lazy mouse, and I'll go kind of like around the edges. Another thing I want to keep in mind, I'm only really going to see about this view from the camera, so I don't really need to worry about the back too much. I'm going to use like this lazy mouse and kind of add like some strokes to outline. Let me take this down some. I'll bring those down a little bit, and then I'll add another one. And say I want to throw like some red on there just to tie into the rest of the scene, and I'll use one of these like noise brushes. And almost like just like some spray paint on top. Maybe a couple of these with the dots. Then say I'll do like some pure white as well. And you see the stretching right here, that's because I don't have my UVs perfectly. Like I could have added seams and did all that, but I didn't feel like it's just something quick. So adding that, and then I might add some more red or maybe some blue. Right. So then I'll export this texture, and I'm going to select my location. Gerald. And my preset of just the base color, and export. All right, so now if I go to Blender and I go to my shader editor and I select, just to save this hoodie of Gerald because it has my toon shader setup situation going. And I'm going to select all of these nodes. I'm going to go back to my home plate. I'm going to paste it. Take out this principal shader and drag that into the surface. And then I'm going to come down here to my base color. And if I go to Gerald baseball field textures home plate, add that in there, it should show up everything that I just did. You see? And then what I can do is, oops, wrong one. Maybe make it like a 1 to make it a little bit, that can probably, lighten it up a little bit. And you see all those strokes and stuff. So then if I go to my swing cam, you can see I have the details and whatnot that I just painted in there, and it's starting to tie it all in with the rest of the elements in the scene. So that's that. You see like my lines and everything. So I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna come back here. So now I have my wiffle ball. It's not the cleanest of mesh. I found this one online as well. Looks like the Boolean and stuff was a little wonky, but it's all good. So go to a fill layer. I'll probably keep that almost pure white. And then I'll add this knife painting brush. Turn off all my layers except for my color. Then I might add like, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll do, maybe I'll make the ball like blue. So I'm gonna go back to my fill layer. Make it kind of like one of these bright blues here. Then here, what I can do is maybe do this red or even white. Yeah, I'll do white. And I'm just gonna throw some like crisscross strokes over the top of it. Just kind of rotate around. Yeah, something like that. And then what I'll do is I'll add another fill layer to tie it in, and I'll add like some red, but then I'll go and add some of those noise brushes over the top. And then I can go to my base color just so I can kind of see what it's going to look like without that light. Maybe a couple bigger ones. Yeah, so then export, not the mesh, the textures. If I click on my home plate and I take all of this, click on my ball, paste all of that, take out the principal shader, take my shader and put it to my surface, go to my base color, wiffle ball, everything should be in there. Yep, so I have a blue ball. So then if I go to my ball cam, we minimize these just to keep everything tidy for what I'm looking for. Baseball field cams, ball cam. You see now I have that, and now I want to go click on here and adjust. We're gonna have a little bit of that to it, and then bring down those shadows so those colors pop a little more, and Maybe increase the stroke intensity. So now if we're going through, getting that rotation with those textures. So here, let me turn this off. This is one of my main views for the scene. So we can start it. Ball comes in, it's rotating. The camera's following. Right? Then about here. There it is, like right there. And then if we go to the swing cam, we come back to about 80. So when the camera comes in, the ball comes in frame. There it is. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And then, boom, he hits it. Walks off. And then for my ball cam, I don't need, let me go to Gerald. His hair is, okay, it's disabled. But for Arnold, I will need his hair. You see, and that adds that layer to it. So now you really get that look of Arnold sitting in the background, waiting for the ball in a weird position because it doesn't look like he's going to catch the ball. But and then you got your swing cam. That one looks a little better. Boom. And that actually looks pretty good too, right there. And then maybe for like these last few frames, I'll render that out too and maybe use it. I'll just have to just move the ball out the way. So for swing cam, we're gonna start at about 80. And then the ball cam, we're gonna go like 0 to 121. And just let me double check my lighting. Let me I'm cool with that. And then, you know what? Maybe I'll take Arnold. Slide him over. And if I go to my swing cam, you can't really tell from there. So what I'm gonna do is for my ball cam, I'm gonna, just to add some symmetry, that's how I'm gonna have the scene look. And then I'll move this back over when I go to my swing cam. Well, that can even work too. Like I can move him back over so he's sitting more over home plate. But for this particular view, it's gonna come straight in on him. Just looks better that way. And I might actually do this too. So it's coming in and it's just straight in. And then I can switch it back over when I go to my swing cam. Or it actually might work too. Yeah, I like that. All right, and then that's my scene. So